All right, everyone, welcome back to Training Thursdays here in the More Than Your Weight Women's community on Facebook. This is my favorite space to hang out on social media. It is a group of over 1,000 women who are on a mission to find peace with food, feel confident in their bodies again, and develop a healthy lifestyle that's more than just about their weight. Now, many women in here want to either lose weight, manage their weight, all those things. But the whole point of even the work that I do in this group is to really hone in on the fact that your health and your worth is more than your weight. Now, if you want to lose weight, that's totally up to you. But what I'm trying to really help women realize is that their health is so much more than the scale will ever say, and as is their worth and their value. Okay. But honestly, all the habits, all the things that I talk about, regardless of what your goal is, whether it's to balance your hormones, whether it's to manage your weight, whether it's to get your insulin levels where they should be, whether it's to manage stress, whether it's to feel more energetic in your skin, to feel better in your clothes, whatever, a lot of these mindset and habit tools that we talk about, that I talk about, that I lead my clients through, will help you accomplish those things. And one of the biggest, the struggles that I see a lot of women have, one of the most important areas to really hone in on in regards to healthy habits is creating a system that works for you around meal and menu planning. Regardless if it's like you're going to cook all your meals at home, regardless if you're going to eat out or you're having a mixture, right? I mean, I really do think we should cook at home for a variety of reasons as much as we can, but sometimes you got to eat out. I ate out dinner last night and actually this morning because we haven't gone to the grocery store yet. We're due to do that today or tomorrow. But I knew exactly where to go to get a balanced meal to with protein, carbs, and fats, and veggies, and fruits, and all of that. And I want to help you learn to do the same. And so in my free challenge that is coming up August 16th, we're going to do this 5-day menu planning challenge. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that at the end, but make sure you sign up for if you're watching this before that. Even if you're watching it after, I really just encourage you to somehow connect with me because this is something that I support my one-on-one clients through as well. So make sure you book a clarity call or a mini session or whatever I have available at the time to really support you in making this one of the habits that you can get down pat as we approach the fall, or even as you approach, whenever you're listening to this, any new season of your life where you're trying to get your healthy habits under control, because your nutrition is the foundation of your health. It is. It's not the only thing we should care about, but it's the foundation. What you put into your body is very important. Nutrition by nature, the word comes from the Latin word nourish, which means to really nourish our body, give it the nutrients, give it whatever it needs through food and water and even supplements to really support it, because it needs those things. It needs macronutrients, it needs micronutrients, it needs water, it needs all of these things to thrive, it's to function, to live actually, right? And so I want to move you women from just surviving to thriving. And I think one of the primary ways to do that is by looking at your nutrition, and the habit around that is meal planning, okay? And so today I wanted to just have a brief conversation around how to make healthy and delicious meals in 30 minutes or less. Now, this conversation is something that it's an expansion of this week's podcast, which was on episode 174 of the More Than Your Weight podcast, talking about 5 ways to make meal planning easier. And in that, I addressed a couple different myths. I addressed myths like healthy eating is expensive, it's complicated, it takes lots of time, I always have to cook at home, all of these different things. And I really want to address here that it actually doesn't have to take a lot of time. Yes, some meals take more prep, some meals take more cooking in the oven, some meals take more of your attention to it. But a lot of the meals that I make and that my husband makes, well, he spends a little bit more time because he has a little bit more patience, but a lot of the meals that I make are really short and simple, maybe around 30 minutes, maybe a little bit more. And that just came from when I was really starting this healthy eating journey in high school. I was a high school student, so I had work to do, but I really wanted to make nutritious meals for me and my family. And so I just, I learned the beauty of the oven and the stovetop and the wonders that you can do by cooking things in there. And so I really want to just kind of have that conversation and give a little bit of insight into kind of what I do to make meals in 30 minutes or less, roughly. So we're not going to necessarily talk about Crock-Pot and Instant Pot, all of those. Those are great resources. And technically you can make meals in under 30 minutes or less by, the prep it takes for you, and you make it cook and then the part at the end. But what I'm talking about roughly is like taking, from the start to the beginning. Personally, we do not, I meal prep, but I do it daily. And a lot of people will bulk meal prep on the weekend. You really got to just find what works for you. But we find that on the weekends, we particularly like to not be doing much stuff, like not being much stuff in the kitchen or whatever. We like to relax, be with family, enjoy our daughter a lot more. So we, at this stage, do not bulk meal prep. So each day we do a little bit. And so that's why I have learned the art of creating meals in a very short amount of time. All right. So this is just to kind of encourage you and inspire you that you can make meals in a short amount of time. Like, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it does take you being intentional. It does take you have the ingredients in your house, knowing how to mix and match those ingredients, being willing to experiment, having some basic cooking skills. But even if that's something you can lean into, right? Again, I started cooking in high school. And so, well, probably before, but like really started not just boiling mac and cheese, but like making meals, complete meals. And so I've been doing this for over not 2 decades. I'm only 32, so nearly 2 decades. And if you're new to cooking and meal planning, that is something that we can definitely work on, one-on-one in particular. But this is just supposed to give you a glimpse into that. Okay, so if you're watching live or watching the replay, feel free to use the comments section to really unpack this as you go along. So whenever I watch live trainings, I like to use the comments to ask a question or to, say, oh my gosh, that thought really just blew my mind, or just use it to process. Because one, it lets the person who's teaching know what's really resonating with people and being able to answer questions specifically around that particular thing. All right, so today what we're going to cover is really, before you even start meal planning, you do need to prep. Not meal planning, cooking these meals, you need to plan. And that's where the challenge is going to come in, right? So you really need to kind of create a routine around this, right? And obviously, there are days I don't create a routine and I kind of know how to make these meals in 30 minutes or less. But when you're starting, I think you need to create some sort of habit and routine around getting organized, planning a time to menu plan, going to the grocery store, making sure you have those ingredients. And that habit we are going to talk about and work through and actually workshop around in this free 5-day challenge. My gosh, guys, I do so many free things. And I do that intentionally because I really want to give you a taste of, one, what it is like to work with me. This is only a taste. Like I help my one-on-one clients way more in depth, way more customizing, because they pay me to do so, and I love to do so. But also because I recognize not everyone can do that yet. But also I just wanted to give you value, whether it's through the podcast, this group, just really show you what's possible. My free content is all about showing you what's possible for you, maybe changing your thoughts a little bit. And then my paid work is really about helping you go deeper, customize everything that I even talk about here towards you and your experience in your life, and really help you uniquely find breakthrough. That is why personally, I invest in one-on-one coaches. I have for many years, in my business, in my health, so many areas, spiritually, just because I know that there's a lot of noise out there and a lot of information. We live in a world of tons of information, which is so good, yet can be very hard because you can feel overwhelmed, not sure what step to take. You might be feeling like, I should do this one, I don't want to miss out, or you're not quite sure what even a healthy meal is, or what even nutrition, like all of these different things. And so that is why I truly believe in the beauty and art of either group coaching or one-on-one coaching, specifically one-on-one, because it can really help you sort through the noise and get clear on what is best for you. All right. And so the menu planning challenge is a glimpse of the work that I do with the client, with my one-on-one clients, but still join it because you're going to get a lot of great value. There's going to be prizes, raffle. Once you sign up, you enter to win the 90-minute coaching session intensive. I'm also giving away some recipes. I'm giving away one of my food and habit journal trackers. So lots of great prizes for you guys. And so definitely join the challenge. And there's actually a little bonus surprise for everybody when you join. If you haven't had a call with me yet, you can have a free 20-minute breakthrough call. Lots of great stuff this month as you come out of summer and approach the fall. And really, let's prepare for it, because now is the best time. I believe any time is the best time to invest in your health, but also now. Why is now important? Because, all right, we've been in a pandemic and we still are in many ways, and it's still impacting people in many ways. But for some people, just we've had to survive. And so certain things like healthy habits or just certain ways of caring for our health and our body, we did what we could, but we know we want to do more. And we know we want to show up well for ourselves. But let me tell you, it takes time, intentionality, and support. And so that is why not only is this challenge going to help you, but if you want one-on-one support, I have a few spots for that. All right. So invest in yourself, whether it's through this challenge or through one-on-one coaching. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about some tips to make meals in under 30 minutes. We're going to talk about the four most important, three actually important food groups, but I added the fourth one in because we need a lot of this one as kind of like a building block for every meal. And then a little bit more about what you can expect in the 5-day challenge. Okay, let's get started. And again, you can ask any questions as you go along and I will get back to them. All right, so what are the building blocks of a healthy, nutritious meal? So in one of my master classes I have for clients, I have tons of trainings I've done and resources that based on where my clients are at, I send that saying, hey, this is a good resource if you want some supplemental support to our sessions. This one is called Nourishing Your Body with Food. And I just kind of outline the building blocks of a healthy meal. And that is particularly looking, we want to start with looking at our macronutrients. And so obviously water is important. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But your macronutrients are your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. Now, they're macronutrients because each, let me explain what macronutrients are. They're nutrients that contain calories, right? So micronutrients don't necessarily contain calories. They contain vital nutrients like certain vitamins and minerals that your body needs for eyesight, for whatever, all these things, skin health, bone health. But macronutrients contain calories and are needed for energy and growth. So all natural foods contain this, and even not natural, so even processed foods contain these macronutrients: fat, carbohydrates, protein. But obviously a lot more processed foods, I'm telling you, will have a lot more carbohydrates. Now, carbs are not bad. You need carbohydrates for energy, for fuel. But most carbohydrates all carbohydrates break down to sugar in your body, which can either be stored in your muscles or your liver, but when it's excess, that's what stores it as fat, right? And so that's why we want to go to the most natural places as possible, but also have a balance. So why eat protein? So I'm not going to necessarily say whether you should eat a plant-based diet or eat meat. I'm going to tell you why protein is important. And if you want to eat plant-based diet, you got to find foods that have that. And if you want to eat animal meat, then find the best quality protein as possible. But protein is essential. It is absolutely essential to build your new cells, maintain tissues, synthesize your new proteins, and make it possible for you to perform basic body functions. It helps build, maintain, repair, and certain body's tissues such as your skin, internal organs, and muscles. So it's not just important for your muscles, it's important for your whole entire body. It's a major component of your immune system and your hormones, which we've talked about hormones, right? Hormones, especially I did a training in July on how to feel good in menopause. I talked a lot about hormones before that, and perimenopause and menopause. Just hormones is so much more than menopause and perimenopause, but I really love to have that conversation when I'm talking about that, because that's when most people are listening, honestly, around that conversation. So there are about 22 amino acids in protein, and they're all vital for your health. Your body can only make 14. That's why 8 are essential and must come from what you eat. Again, there's different sources of protein. There can be animal sources: meat, chicken, fish, eggs, seafood, dairy products, plant sources, nuts, seeds, grains, and even some vegetables. Protein also helps you feel full and satisfied. That's why we want to incorporate it at every meal. It helps stabilize your blood sugar and minimize mindless munching. So a lot of women that I work with, or even in my audience, talk about having cravings. And cravings, if you've done my Conquer Your Cravings challenge, I think I did that back in May here in the group. And even some of the videos are still in here in the group. There, I talked about there's many sources of cravings, right? But one of the best ways to conquer your cravings and mindless munching is to make sure you're eating enough. And honestly, eating protein helps. How much protein depends on your body's needs. It depends on your goals, but I would roughly say 30% of your calories. Or I like to use my hand as measurements. A closed, I think it's a closed fist. That's what it is? I think it's a closed fist for my protein. Roughly, it depends on your goals. If you're trying to maintain weight or lose, as someone who is not breastfeeding as much, but still breastfeeding, I need like 1.5, right? But the average person who is trying to do something with their weight or change their health probably would need about a fistful. Let's talk about carbs. Now, carbs are, I think at one point, all of these have been labeled as bad, protein, carbs, and fat, but carbs are so important. And don't skip out on this part, because this isn't why I'm talking about all of this is because you're going to be making meals with all 3 of these. And I'm trying to explain to you why it's important. Carbs are so important for energy, for our cells, aiding in recovery from any physical activity. It's a good source of fiber, which helps our digestive system move things through its track and get rid of what we don't need. It contains sugar and starches. Again, remember, all carbs break down to sugars in your body, even good carbs. Let's just stop labeling certain things as good or bad. There are more advantageous and nutritious foods, but no food is good or bad, right? That's something we'll talk about hopefully next month, food freedom. So we want to get carbohydrates from the most unrefined, meaning the most whole food. There's just been less, it's been less processed, right? So vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts, seeds, whole grains, and about 40% of your diet can come from this. And I kind of like when you're talking about starchy carbs, so carbohydrates that contain more sugar or more calories, or quote unquote more carbs in grams. I like to kind of like do fistful here and kind of cup fistful over here for it. Refined carbs, again, that's like cereals, white bread, even rice and cakes and candy. Those aren't bad, just not as nutritious, right? So we just don't want to have those as often. Fats, your body needs fats because fats are vital for your immune system, brain, nervous system health, overall body function. It regulates your body weight, gives you healthy skin and hair and nails, increases your energy and performance, and it's critical for absorption of actually certain vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, and of course your hormones. There's different types of fats. There's monounsaturated, saturated, polyunsaturated, there's trans fats. Monounsaturated is the ones comes from a variety of plants, foods, and animals. That's your avocados, olives, hazelnuts, macadamia nut, coconut products. I eat a lot of mine from monounsaturated fats. They help reduce your blood pressure, they benefit insulin and blood sugar, and they're anti-inflammatory. Saturated fats are not bad. I would just say don't have, those are ones that found in a lot of animal products. Try not to make all your fats come from that source. So that's clarified butter, fat, ghee, lard, and even beef fat. Polyunsaturated are your omega-3 and 6s. You probably hear I need omega-3s, and omega-3s are really great for monitoring inflammation in your body. And these come from a variety of nuts, flax seeds, those are the sources that I get them the most from. But omega-6 is actually, sorry, a lot of omega-3s are found in some seeds, but also in a lot of fish and that sort of thing. Omega-3s. Omega-6s can be found in too much nuts or vegetable oils. So you're like, Brianna, this is confusing. Just try to have a balance of where you get your fats from, right? And just know that your body needs actually omega-3s and 6s. But too much processed fats or like vegetable oils and stuff like that, that can give you too much omega-6s, right? So again, we're just trying to get from the most whole food as possible. And again, in stuff that I give my client, also 30%, we want 30% from fat. So roughly 40% carbohydrates, 30% protein, 30% fat. Again, I do not, if you're measuring, if you're doing the zone, if you're measuring your macros, all of that, you can, using MyFitnessPal, you can track that percentage, but I have always eyeballed it with my hand and tried to listen to my body. It's more people might call that more intuitive, but I just don't do well with tracking numbers around food. I never have. It had led to very not good ways of eating and thinking for me. So that's just not something I do, and it's not even necessarily something I teach. There are people who teach that if you want really specifics, but I think for the majority of us, we need to just focus on eating these good foods, okay, and in balance. All right. Okay, so protein, carbs, and fats. Now they can come, again, I mentioned some different sources. This food journal and habits tracker that I'll give away to one person in the challenge, and actually something I give to my clients, has a food chart where I've labeled all great protein, whole food protein sources, all great fat sources, carbohydrates, vegetables, which is the fourth one I hadn't talked about. And just to make it very easy. And I like to go, that's the chart that I kind of go off by and mix and match my meals by when I'm not quote unquote following a recipe, or even when I'm looking at recipes. All right, so macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats. So a little side note, so carbohydrates, the best sources for those are your fruits and vegetables. Fruits, and even some what we call starchy vegetables, or what you may know as root vegetables, have more carbohydrates in them. And so that breaks down into more sugar in your body and all that. But a lot of vegetables, a lot of green vegetables, all of that is, I would consider kind of like a fourth food group. So whenever I'm making my plate, I typically have a more starchy carb. So I'll either have a fruit, or like plantain or cassava or pumpkin or butternut squash, and then a green vegetable like broccoli, salad, cabbage. And then I cook it with fat, and then I have a protein source, right? Because we just need to be eating more vegetables. I think we all know that. But this is a way to kind of like, you're still eating other carbohydrates, but you're still getting the good vegetables in there, right? And because green vegetables are just they're packed. They're like nutrient powerhouses, right? And again, in my food and journal and habits tracker, which you can purchase, but also I'll be giving away one. It has a food chart there. All right. Okay, so I just explained that's what we want when we're making meals. We want to have balanced meals, and balanced meals for a variety of reasons, because our body needs all those macronutrients, but also because it does monitor our blood sugar levels and insulin levels. If you're just eating carbohydrates, it spikes your insulin levels really quick, so your body's just releasing a bunch of insulin and trying to store it. But when you're adding a bit of the fat and protein, it kind of balances those blood sugar levels and insulin levels. All right, so let's run through a little bit. How do we make it under 30 minutes? Okay, we know we need to have protein, carbs, and fats, and some veggies at each meal, because I just shared why they're all important. But how do you actually go about doing that? Well, I think again, I do think it's important for you to menu plan and incorporate those in there. And that's what we're going to talk about in the challenge, is creating a plan so that you can make the meals in under 30 minutes or less. But say like you have stuff in your kitchen, or you say you're like, I don't like planning. I just like buying these food group items, ones I know I like, and mix and matching. That's actually what we do in this season. Sometimes we'll follow recipes and say we're going to have this and this and this. But sometimes we'll just go to the store if we don't have a lot of energy, and we have go-to meals. This is one thing I'll suggest in the plan challenge as well, having go-to meals that when you don't have a lot of time and energy to like create an amazing new menu that you can just make on repeat, right? So sometimes we'll just go and buy these different protein sources we like, buy these different vegetables we like, buy these different carbohydrates, buy these different fats. And then, then I look and say, what do I feel like making today? And I say, okay, well, I'm going to make it a normal way, or, let me try something new. And then I'll look up a recipe for inspiration. But again, that's because I'm very comfortable. I mean, my husband is very comfortable in the kitchen at this point. But if you're not there yet, then I definitely think that's why you should join the menu planning challenge. Or again, if you're watching this afterwards, book a call with me, because I want to get you there so that it's just so easy to make meals, even when you're just looking in your fridge and like just need to create a meal. it's easy to do that. So I often like say, okay, like today, I'm gonna make lunch after this. I have some chicken that's been marinating, some chicken thighs. I think they're boneless chicken thighs. And I just got some plantain and I have cabbage. And so I'm asking myself, what am I gonna make? Okay, so those are my 3 food groups. I'm gonna cook it with coconut oil. I got fats, I got protein, I got greens, and I got carbohydrate, like a starchy carb in the plantain. Now I ask myself if I want to make this quickly or with a little bit of effort, like I can do things while it's cooking. That's what I also think when I'm saying under 30 minutes, like you're just not spending all your time in the kitchen. I'm like, okay, what method, this is tip number 2, what method of cooking can help you make it quick or easy? And I love using the stovetop to saute and fry things, and the oven to bake or roast things. Those are my 2 favorite, like, especially with a child, even before a child, really led a really busy life. That's just what we do. We roast, bake, saute, fry, boil, microwave from time to time, and it just makes it easy. This is if you're cooking with heat, right? Obviously, there's salads you can make, there's cold things that you can make that you won't need to cook with heat. But I'm telling you, it just makes such a difference knowing that I have a friend and support in my stovetop and oven. And so what I'm going to do with my cabbage is I don't even know what you would call it, but I like to bake it. So I chop it up. So you can make a bunch of things with cabbage, right? You can make coleslaw, all these different things. But what I'm going to do is chop it up. I put a little bit of water in there. And then, oil, salt, and pepper. And the water just helps, whenever you have a tough vegetable, it helps soften the vegetable quicker. And I will bake that. And I like to add onions to make it a little bit sweet. And so it's almost like if you were to take cabbage and saute it on the stovetop, same flow, but I'm making a lot at one time. So I'm going to do it in the oven. And that's going to probably take 30 minutes. So at the very beginning, I'm going to chop, put it in the oven, and let that cook. And then while that is cooking, I am going to fry my plantain. I like right plantain. Chop it into slices, put some coconut oil, fry it, and that takes like 10, 12 minutes. Also, I typically don't, you can do this, putting both 2 things in the oven at one time. It just takes a little longer. Sometimes I would take the chicken thighs that I'm talking about and saute those as well, make some coconut aminos and just kind of make it like, it's that coconut aminos is alternative to soy sauce. And that will be quick, under 30 minutes. But today, because they're bigger chicken thighs, I don't feel like chopping them. I don't feel like skinning them. I'm also going to cook those in the oven with the cabbage. So it might take a little bit longer because both things are cooking, but 30, 40 minutes. And so just how much effort am I actually doing? It's not a lot. And so that's just a glimpse. I say that because I just want to give you a glimpse of how important it is to consider different methods of cooking if you're trying to do things quickly. Do some things on the stovetop, fry, saute. You can do that with vegetables, meat, carb. You can do all kinds of things. Add some onions, add some seasonings, but also use your oven, because your oven is going to cook for you while you're cooking other things, versus if you did all in one. If I did everything in the oven, it would take longer. If I did everything on the stovetop, it would take longer. So I like to have a mixture. Okay. Again, this is something that there's no recipe here. I'm just trying to think of how do I want to make these in ways that I know I've made them and liked them before, and I'm putting it together. So I'm just making my own recipe or meal. But say if you had cabbage, you have chicken, you have plantain, you're like, okay, what is a creative way I can make that? So you look up a recipe. Maybe you find hash. Like, my goodness, it's a sweet kind of carb. You have a little bit of, you could chop up the cabbage a little thinner, chop up your chicken, and you make a little hash. Same ingredients. And so why it's also important to find food items from the different food groups I mentioned that you like is you can make 5, 10 different versions of a meal using those ingredients, right? So that's why it's actually very important to start with foods you like. And it's the same thing I would say about exercise. Start with exercises you like. Start with healthy, nutritious food groups you like, or food items you like, because it's going to make trying new things, figuring out how to make it quickly, very easy for yourself. Okay. So yes, you can do some menu planning. We'll talk about that. So you have these items in your kitchen, but sometimes it's just looking at what's in your kitchen, trying to say, how can I make a balanced meal from that? And then playing around with different methods of cooking and recipes to cook it in 30 minutes or less, or just not spend a lot of time there. So 1, see what's in your kitchen, balance it with the different food groups. 2, consider different methods of cooking, like the stove top, the onion, maybe it's the broiler, maybe it's the little George Foreman grill. Like there's tons of fancy gadgets. Even your Instapot and cooking pot can make things really quick too, right? And then maybe look up a recipe or try something on your own. So those 3, that's kind of really what we live by as well. Another thing I love to do is if you're cooking with meat, is making sure your meat's thawed, especially if you're trying to make a quick meal. If you're trying to put it in an Instapot or a cooking pot, it doesn't matter, right? It's going to do it for you. But I like to thaw it, and if possible, marinate it. So I thawed the chicken yesterday and put it in the fridge with some marinara, with some marinade. And so today when I cook it, it's going to be very flavorful. I like to brine it, which has a little seasoning, oil, and vinegar. You could do this beforehand, right when you're doing it, but if you do it overnight, it actually just makes it more flavorful as well. That saves a little bit of time versus like you take out your meat like right before you want to cook. Some other things to make your process, if you are someone that likes to batch or meal prep before, creating your sides beforehand. That way you're mainly just creating your main course or your meat, or creating your meat beforehand. And so, if today we're going to have a lot of cabbage, it's just a whole cabbage. Well, maybe that's going to be I'm going to have enough for tomorrow. So I don't have to do my greens tomorrow, right? And I just need to do the main course and the carbs. And so that's another way to also make meals in, 30 minutes or less, is batching certain food, like certain items, so that you are making a lot of it. I like to say cook once, eat multiple times, eat twice at least, so that you have things later, so you're not cooking everything from fresh. And again, use your stove, use your stovetop, and use your oven, because that is just going to make it just use everything that's going to help you. And again, there's tons of recipes. I just kind of walked you through one, but there are a bunch of recipes. There's like 5 particular, like my Whole30 recipe thing, which is just whole foods that I have in my resource library, that just gives you a glimpse of like 5 nutritious meals that you can make in that honestly, I believe I did this in 2016, that I made in 30 minutes or less. So scrambled eggs with sausage, veggies, and green apples, stir-fried chicken, cauliflower rice, and fried plantain, paleo porridge, which you're making with pears and coconut or almond milk, taco salad you could do with tacos, without, or baked apples with boiled eggs. And so that's 5 meals that I'm pretty sure that you can do in 30 minutes or less. I'm pretty sure I've done it in 30 minutes or less. That is free, that you can access right now in my resource library. So if you want access to that, I'll try to put the link in the comments here. You can get that and get, inspired. That's it. So those are my tips. And again, this is just a glimpse or inspiration for you to know that to really combat the myth that you can't make healthy meals in a short amount of time. You can. It just takes intentionality, practice, all that sort of stuff. And I want to help you create a habit around this, so that you're always menu planning, whether the meal takes an hour, whether it takes an hour and a half, whether it takes 30 minutes. And that's what I hope to do in my 5-day free challenge. This free challenge, it's going to be 5 days, where the beginning of each day, you'll get an email saying, watch this little 1-minute, 2-minute video on what we're going to talk about. Here's a worksheet, work through it, but then join me live each day in the Facebook group, More Than Your Weight Women's Community, because I'm going to go through one part of what we talked about that day in more depth. So for example, day 1 is cleaning things out, cleaning out your kitchen, but also cleaning out those limiting beliefs around meal planning takes forever. And I am going to talk about mindset there and addressing that in more depth on the video. And also it's a live space for you to get coaching, whether you're watching it on the replay or live. But I'm also giving away 3 different goodies. I'm giving away a 90-minute coaching session, my Food Freedom Intensive, giving away a set of recipes. I think this is my 60 sensational recipes, and my food and habits journal and tracker. So, Your action step is one, if any of this stood out to you, like a tip that you really want to implement today or this week around creating meals in 30 minutes or less, let me know in the comments. What are you going to do to help you create 30-minute food quickly? Is it going to be one, actually, maybe you need to focus on balancing your plate. Is it you're going to use the stove more? Is it going to use your Instapot more? What is it? But also sign up for the menu planning challenge, because that is where we're going to help you create a habit out of meal and menu planning. Okay. But again, if you're watching this for some reason later and you're like, I missed it, that's okay. I do lead my clients through this one-on-one and really help customize it. So book a clarity call. And even if you're watching this now, you can still book it from now. And we can just chat about how I can help you create a habit, not just out of menu and meal planning, but in other areas of your life. Okay. I'll leave a comments to everything I talked about. I'll leave the link to everything I talked about here, and we'll go from there. All right. Grateful for you all. Hopefully this was encouraging and inspiring to you, and I will see you hopefully in the challenge.